morning, everyone, first and foremost. For those of you who don't know me, you might have seen my face around at Partner Day, but I'm Adam Geldard-Williams. I'm one of the partner managers here at EvolveIP. And obviously, as Courtney's mentioned, we are going to be focusing on Evolve's new partnership with MIT Dynamics today. You might see as well a few guest faces on the call as well. But I'll introduce you to them as we go through the webinar today. So before we kick off, as standard with EvolveIP, we have a Slido. So this will be just making sure the webinar is really interactive. You guys get to obviously have your say as well as we go through the webinar. There will be opportunities to comment or to vote for an answer as we go as well. So if you would like to scan the QR code and then enter the passcode highlighted at the bottom, then you'll be able to obviously have your say as well. It'd be good to get some live feedback as we go through the webinar as well. Don't worry if we are going to move on, but when we get to another Slido, you will be able to see the QR code and the passcode as well. So all good. So outcomes of today. So first of all, why are we here? So obviously it's to discuss EvolveIP's new partnership with MIT Dynamics. And obviously show you why we've partnered with them, but also demonstrate the value that MIT brings to the table and how you guys as our partners can utilize them in every shape and form, from a commercial perspective, but also from an operational perspective, and obviously get your customers speaking to MIT. Also look to how they can help retain customers and drive customer satisfaction. You'll see as we go through the webinar, when I introduce some guest speakers, you'll be able to see how that value has been driven within those conversations, but also how it can potentially retain customers and drive that satisfaction or NPS score, which I'm sure most of you guys have. Show how utilize MIT can help unlock new opportunities. Now this can be through any stage of the sales cycle or life cycle of the customer as well. And also show you how the partnership with MIT can help you and your sales team buzzword alert or buzz topic alert help with the 2027 ISDN or PSTN switch off. Okay, so first Slido, what do you guys know about MIT at the moment, as of right now? And I'm sure when me and Courtney were discussing this particular question, I'm pretty sure we'll see a couple of answers come up, maybe relating to something on the other side of the pond, but we'll see what comes up. Okay, so nothing. Okay, so that's always a good start. So hopefully today we'll be able to change that. If not, then apologies in advance. But I'm sure we'll definitely change it. Perfect. They offer a PBX scraping tool which enables you to offer accurate and automated migration to Evolve. Okay. Nothing for this MIT. Okay, so I assume referring to the university across in America. PBX extraction, something to do with PBX reports. Okay. Okay, super. And I can't see any more participants typing, so we'll move on. Okay, so before we get into who MIT are, I'll explain a little bit more as to why we've partnered with them. So as of, I think, so speaking with Cavell, they highlighted to us that the UK cloud communications market is only at 57% penetration as of right now, which means there's obviously significant opportunity out there for migrating new users across from legacy PBX solutions across to cloud-based solutions. The opportunity mainly lies within the medium enterprise market. Okay. Obviously, the PSTN switch off 2027, it was obviously pushed back by a couple of years from this year, but customers will have to make a decision, or they'll be sort of thinking about making a decision between now and 2027. And you'll see throughout the webinar as we go that MIT is a great tool to encourage customers to migrate away from that legacy piece of technology sooner rather than later. Legacy PBX systems are complex, and sometimes organizations struggle with inconsistent or error-prone data extraction due to manual handling, limited resource, and dependence on that particular resource, which could cause something like in terms of delays of extracting that data and getting customers across onto a new platform, and obviously customers to billing. When extracting data through resource, it takes a lot of time as well, and also human error could be a factor. So not everything is captured. Oh, I do apologize. So it also gives partners a resource to unlock sales opportunities for both new prospects, but also existing customers as well. Everything that you need to know about the customer or prospect's PBX is in one place. So that's just but not only beneficial for you as the partner, because then you know absolutely everything about that customer. For the sales guys, it's a really, really good tool to obviously have better conversations with their customer. Okay, also speeds up the life of the sales cycle as well. And also improve operational efficiencies. So we will talk more about this in a little bit later, in a little bit more detail with one of the guests that we've got on the call today, and how it can improve speed, reliability of deployment, and also getting that, like we mentioned before, getting the customer to billing faster. But rather than me tell you about who MIT are, what they do, how they do it, I'm going to introduce you to one of our guest speakers for today, and that is Elliot. And Elliot Ford is the Director of Partnerships at MIT. So first of all, Elliot, thanks for joining us this morning. So I'll pass over to you and essentially ask you, who are MIT? If you're there. I can see you there.
I think you might have dropped off the call for a bit, Adam, so maybe you just take the reins and introduce Elliot.
When he jumps back on.
Yeah.
No worries. Not good timing, not good timing. So MIT, as you guys, one of you has already alluded to earlier on in the webinar on the Slido, they utilize they have their PBX scraping tool effectively, where they utilize the backup of a PBX to scrape all data from it. So that is something such as number of SIP trunks, number of licenses, number of pieces of hardware, different types of features. Okay, and this is what the diagram almost looks like. So as you can see on the far left-hand side, you can see the number of PBXs that MIT can extract data from, and when going through the life cycle of MIT, they obviously can pump everything out into spreadsheets, into reports, so that it gives you a nice breakdown of what the customer exactly got, and obviously it spits out into modern day visualization, so what their legacy kit looks like in modern day terms. So as you can see on the slide here, the ones we want to focus on are obviously our offerings, which are obviously WebEx and Voice to Teams.
I am back. Can you guys hear me all right?
There we go. We can hear you loud and clear. So I'll jump back in. That's all right. Not ideal timing, but I'll jump back to you, Elliot. So yeah, if you could do a little bit of an intro into who MIT are for us, what you guys do, and how you do it, that would be mega. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, apologies about that, but yeah, cheers. Thank you, Adam, and thank you guys for allowing me to talk a bit about MIT today. Yeah, we're not the university in Massachusetts in America. We're a telecom software business in Chelmsford, based in Chelmsford in Essex, and an office in Henley-on-Thames as well. But yeah, essentially MIT, we've been operating for about sort of plus 30 years now in the telecom software business, predominantly stemming from sort of traditional call logging, call accounting on pretty much any telephone system. We've got a lot of Mitel history, but our software can be applied to any PBX essentially, and hosted platform as well. And then it stemmed into sort of migration software. So essentially, we're not just capturing that call data, which is where the software stemmed from, but we can capture sort of the entire user configuration data of a PBX, and allow quite rapid, intuitive reports, comprehensive reports of that PBX to show customers exactly what they have, what's being used, and how the configuration setup is today. So that when you're moving to the likes of EvolveIP's platform, you can better plan essentially how many licenses you need, identify what's being used, identify all the trunk capacity, everything that's needed to perform an accurate and informed migration to any platform essentially. So the diagram here on the left just shows some of the vendors that we can capture data from. As Adam said, it can be quite complex capturing data from quite old legacy systems like CS1Ks or Nortels, ISDXs, for example. The great thing about Ucentric is that it's got all those capabilities built within the software. So over many years of working on projects, we've developed those capabilities to audit pretty much any PBX. So you don't need any prior knowledge of any of those systems on the left. We claim that we can audit any PBX out there, and if it's not on the list, we usually say about sort of 2 weeks to write a decoder to actually decode that information and start logging it. So in the migration phase, we usually sort of add in other data sources as well, like call logging, Active Directory, any network logs. And essentially what that does is allow us to enrich the results of the audit. Call logging is a really key factor as well, because when we blend that data in, it allows us to see how many phones are actually being used. So when you're doing a migration, we're seeing on average about 20% of legacy licenses just simply aren't being used. So the customer can actually save quite a substantial amount when doing that migration, and essentially just have a lot more accurate picture of what's needed, how many licenses they actually need. We're also doing a lot of feature mapping as well. So what features do they have on the legacy environment that map to the likes of, the target environment? Obviously Cisco Broadworks being EvolveIP's solution, but again, those vendors on the right hand side there, we can do a lot of feature mapping for like analysis for those vendors on the right there as well. So I guess that helps the customer plan what features are most suited for them based on the legacy data. And I guess some of the USPs as well with Ucentric is some of them on the left there. So Ucentric is very quick. You're not having to send engineers to site anymore to do audits, which can take, up to weeks to do, and it can be quite costly. And as Adam said, it can be quite prone to human error as well. If you want to do more than one audit, doing it manually, you're having to send that engineer to site multiple times. Whereas Ucentric, once connected to that PBX, can pull that configuration data off in a matter of minutes and hours, and you don't need to go to site. You just use Ucentric to capture that data very quickly. It's very accurate as well. It's completely software automation based as well, so it removes that need for any human errors going to site. And you're always working on fresh data as well with Ucentric. It's continuity of service. You might want to do more than one audit of a PBX to keep on top of fresh data. So it allows you to automate that migration and audit process simply by connecting to the PBS very quickly and pulling off that data.
You've mentioned quite a lot of what the reports capture for obviously when extracting that data from a PBX. But I suppose we'll move on to the next slide, and I suppose we could just obviously you mentioned a few of them already, but maybe some of the features that the guys might not necessarily know about, and how that, and then I suppose how you mentioned the reports as well. What do they look like? I think there's, from memory, there's two types of reports that you guys offer as well off the back of the extraction.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so the two outputs that Ucentric produces is a high level design, which is a customer facing overview of the PBX, the user configuration, and then it also produces a low level design, which is an Excel spreadsheet, which is essentially a provisioning sheet that you'll use for all the moves, adds, and changes. And then we can also produce an EvolveIP bulk loader. EvolveIP kindly have shared their bulk loader, so we can essentially capture data from any PBX and produce that, squirt that straight into the EvolveIP bulk loader ready for provisioning.
So essentially that'll make the deployment process for all of our partners, for the benefit of the partners on the call, that'll make the deployment process a lot slicker, quicker, and then obviously like we mentioned already before, getting customers getting the customers invoice faster as well, right?
That's correct. Absolutely. Yeah, it removes that need for any manual intervention, manual data collection, and manual producing of the reports. We can produce those reports for you in a matter of minutes and hours, compared to weeks or months it can take you, manually to do this sort of information.
Brilliant. So essentially, rather than an engineer being booked in to go to, say, a site survey to extract that data manually, it's more of a case of where the first appointment of an engineer going to site, if required, of course, is to actually deploy the system itself.
Exactly that. Yeah. So as you said, in some cases we have been known to go to site if it's banking or finance, because they don't like data leaving anywhere. So in those cases we can go to site. Some partners on this call may already do that today, but outside of those instances, 99% of the time you don't need to go to site anymore. You can use Ucentric to pull it off remotely.
And you've just mentioned it there. You guys can go to site if absolutely required, which obviously is great because it means obviously our partners don't have to send out resource there for an afternoon or for a day. So in terms of the process from, say, the first conversation that a partner might have with an end customer, and when they approach myself, as I say, they approach myself, and then I get in contact with you, say we've got this opportunity that we're working on. What does the process look like? Is it a demonstration of obviously what the art of what's possible with the customer? Can you just talk us through that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so typically for new partners that are interested in getting an audit of a customer's PBX, it's a complete managed service that we're providing to EvolveIP. So we carry out the whole audit for you, essentially. And typically how we would start it is we jump on a call, we would demonstrate the actual user-centric software interface and take you through quite a comprehensive demonstration of it. If there's any vendors that you want to focus on, we can focus on MITRE, we can focus on Avaya, we can focus on Cisco, whatever it is you want to capture data from. We can tailor the demo to suit that. And essentially, we'll be brought in to kick off calls with the customer and the partner as well. So using those calls basically essentially enables us to identify what the customer has and what the model of the PBX is. And then we can they basically come back with a plan as to how we're going to approach the project and how we're going to capture the data.
Fantastic, awesome. I suppose for the benefit of everyone on the call, if we can provide a quick snapshot of the standard HLD report that you mentioned earlier, sort of a few snapshots of what it captures, and obviously what the reports includes and what it is essentially. So I think it'll be worth sharing, and then obviously the low level design report as well, which is, as you mentioned, can be utilised for the provisioning sheet or provisioning document for getting that customer on the platform as quickly as possible. And I think the key here for me, Elliot, is that you can see how simple it is and how clear it is as well. You can clearly see from the document where everything is, the users, email addresses, and everything's just extracted straight into one place, and it's not having to go through the system manually, as we say, or potentially asking the customer, oh, can you just clarify this information for us? Because obviously, as you and I both know, and the guys and our other guests on the call will know, that takes time and it just delays things. Again, and obviously speed of the essence sometimes is really key for customers. So that thanks, Elliot. That's a really good overview, and I hope the guys, everyone on the call, can see how beneficial MIT could be for them as a partner, but also for their own customers. I think we'll move on to our next slide. So obviously, after hearing what Elliot's just said, everyone, if you'd like to just have a little look through the responses just here. So what do you think the benefits of utilising MIT for you as a partner are? Okay, we've got all of the above. Okay, we've got a few more votes coming in. And nothing's changing, so I like to say that everyone's on the same page. Okay, we're at same time and resource. Okay. We'll wait for a couple more to come in if that's it. Or we'll carry on. Okay, super. So 78% all of the above, and 22% saving time and resource. Of course, all of the answers are correct. And I can see why saving time and resource is probably the main benefit in obviously utilising MIT. And we'll sort of move on. I won't obviously dive too much into all of these points because I'm just conscious of the time, and I want to get my next guest introduced as well. So obviously unlocking value in new opportunity, align solutions with customer needs. So the use of MIT, as we've seen, can obviously align with what the customer actually requires. So if they want what they've currently got on their current PBX, you'll be able to see what that looks like in modern day technology, and obviously you can make those relevant adjustments so the customer is getting a tailored solution fit for purpose. It's fit for what they want. Increase efficiency, so speeding up the process of migrating customers, as all of the information can be extracted a lot quicker, as Elliot mentioned, matter of minutes and hours rather than days, weeks, months. reveal hidden opportunities potentially. So the customer may not know what they have got, and the report may present opportunities to the partner, whether it be in a value add product or increasing seat count, because they might have thought, well, actually, we've only got 50 users as an example, but in theory, in actual fact, they've got 60, 70, 75, and they're all being used. And then also, like we've mentioned before, customer retention. So the customer feels understood, they feel valued, as that their provider knows them inside and out. They know everything about them, and the partner has the tools and resources to be able to provide the best possible service for them. And obviously as well benefits both commercially and operationally, as we've discussed as well. And most important one, just at the bottom, time to cash. Customers are invoiced faster, which obviously everyone wins because everyone gets money in the bank. Second slide, what is the benefit, or what do you think the benefits of MIT are to the end customer? So we've got, they know exactly what they have got. They know exactly what their current system looks like in modern technology. The customer knows exactly what they are using, save cost, all of the above. Okay, wait for a few more votes to come in. Okay, a bit of a split between all of the above, and they know exactly what their current system looks like in modern technology. Okay, so all of the above, 67%, and they know exactly what their current system looks like in modern technology, 33%. Of course, all of the above is correct, or in this case, all of the below is correct. So yeah, they know exactly what their current system has got. Also, they know exactly what their current system looks like. They know exactly what their current system looks like in modern technology. And obviously that move is completely tailored as well. The customer understands utilization. So again, this could be key in speeding up the sales cycle. They're not having to wait for the customer to go back in internally to see what they've got, what they might need, or how many users they think might be using the system, and so on. So they know exactly what they need and can make informed decisions on what they want to have next. So they can have better conversations with you guys, with the partners, with the sales team, as they feel more comfortable knowing what they currently have, so they know what they want moving forward to sort of a future-proof option, or the art of what's possible. Now, just conscious of time, so I'll move on to our next sort of topic of discussion. So obviously, it's all well and good hearing what MIT offering, but I think showing everyone on the webinar what MIT looks like in the real world, a real world example. So I brought in some special guests. So I brought in Joe Collison, a senior account manager at Babbel, and Nikki Howe, head of field services at Babbel as well. So obviously Joe from a sales perspective and Nikki from a operational perspective. So Joe, I'll come to you first. From a sales perspective, in the sales cycle, when speaking to customers, what do you feel the biggest pain points are when it comes to gathering data from those customers, whether it be sort of pre-sales, but also post-sales as well?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Adam. And hello, everyone. It's nice to virtually meet you all. I think one of the biggest pain points I've had is the work that goes into extracting the data from the legacy system. So it was always a big obstacle in the way of getting a customer to move from where their current state was to their desired state, and they never wanted to put in any additional work to extract this data out of what MIT has essentially allowed, which is what we'll get onto in a minute, but is for us to easily maneuver that obstacle.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned, obviously, I mean, the reason I thought we got you on the call today is because we've utilised it with one of Babbel's customers. So for the benefit of everyone on the call, 460 seat opportunity that Joe was working on. And Joe, if you want to provide a little bit more context around that particular opportunity, and obviously why you thought MIT and utilising Elliot in the team would be a particular would be a benefit to you and the customer.
Yeah, sure. So it's a particularly large opportunity that's been kicking around in the Babbel pipeline now for probably the past 2 or 3 years that no one ever really managed to get any traction on. The main reason because of that is because they had a new IT manager in that came on board about 2.5 years ago. He, through years of poor data import and a lack of control of their existing Mitel system. The IT manager that came in has no real understanding or no real idea, albeit he's familiar with the Mitel system, of what they've actually got and what they actually need. And because they're such a large scale business, it's not the case of just sticking their head in one door and doing a count on a couple of hands and saying this is how many handsets we need.
Yeah.
Really, to move them to the point of a full cloud solution, we need to have a clear picture of what they actually need moving forwards. So when MIT came in, as soon as you mentioned it to me, Adam, about what MIT were all about and what they could do for us, it was an instant fit for this given opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think as we went through the conversation with the customer, I think they almost snap your hand off it, is obviously as to how much or how the system, how it all works and how it was all put together. They almost jumped at the opportunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the biggest thing for them was that both being busy people, both of the guys in the IT function that I've been speaking with, both are busy people, and both were really shying away from the task of, hence why the opportunity hadn't progressed, were really shying away from the task of actually going out and locking themselves in a room for 1 week, 2 weeks and extracting all of this data and then making sense of it. No one really wanted that task. So on top of the time that takes, it then also takes them away from the day job, doing what's good at. So when MIT came in as a cost-effective solution, it was an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a business here who have people that actually look after the phone system, right? Whereas some smaller businesses who don't necessarily have someone who purely looks after the phone system. I mean, a huge business wanting to utilize MIT. I mean, if it's going to be so beneficial for them, it's going to be massively beneficial for maybe one of your smaller customers, as an example, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the guys that my contacts at this given business, probably 20% of their role makes up the maintenance of the Mitel phone system, and it kind of shows you to the depth of how in the dark they are with what data sits on this system, with that they wasn't willing to touch it with a barge pole. That's why this opportunity has kind of kicked around for the last 2 or 3 years, because no one's got a clear picture within the business of what this looks like, and ultimately to give us a baseline requirement of what's required moving forwards.
Definitely. I think, and just to touch on the process, I know I spoke to Elliot about it earlier. Obviously, they're happy to jump on demos, go to site. What did you like about the process of obviously utilizing MIT, and then what was the sort of feedback that you got from the customer, obviously after reports have been processed and published? And I mean, just sort of general feedback from, first of all, yourself and then from the end customer.
Sure. I think one of the biggest value adds that I saw is that it was very direct. So Elliot and Rob kindly jumped on a call with the customer, and this just allowed it to be direct communication. We didn't have to jump through any hoops. It wasn't information coming from MIT to you, to me, then on to the customer. So nothing was lost in translation. It was nice and direct, and that way both parties could understand the desired outcome. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then I suppose for a salesperson such as yourself, will you be using MIT moving forwards for those conversations that you'll be having with customers that might be on a legacy PBX solution?
Yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't make sense for me not to use this tool moving forwards, because ultimately it unlocks a plethora of more opportunities of where I can go into IT managers, IT directors that know, I like to look at it a bit like a messy comms cabinet. No one wants to touch it and sort it out, but if someone's willing to come in and do it for you and make it all nice and neat and tidy, and then they give you the key and you can open it up and it's all done for you. It's a cost-effective solution. It's a no-brainer for a lot of IT managers.
Yeah, fantastic. No, I appreciate your feedback there, Joe. I think it's really, really useful, the fact that we get to obviously hear that, and someone who's used MIT in the real life scenario with that particular customer. And I suppose for you, Joe, as well as a salesperson, if it means that your projects can get deployed faster, I mean, obviously the money hits the business quicker, but obviously as a salesperson, we all know the role of a salesperson is going to benefit you as well, right? So, and I suppose sort of linking on to that in terms of speed of deployment, I'd like to bring in Nikki. So Nikki, sort of to kick off, really, I mean, same sort of question for you as obviously head of field services, you head of the deployment team, you head of the provisioning team, etc. What are the main pain points, obviously, for you as a team leader, for your team as individuals, but then sort of the wider business in terms of the knock-on effect, I guess, with those pain points?
Thanks, Adam. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Yeah, first things first. I didn't know a salesperson in Babel knew what a messy comms room looked like. So, well done, Joe. But I think for us, we follow a very manual process when it comes to data extraction from customers. We've followed the same process for a long time, and as much as it works, it is manual. And I think for me personally, time to reduce deployments, time to get the installations done, but also accurate data. We at Babel have sort of grown by acquisition, and because of that, you inherit phone systems and legacy PBXs that we just don't have the information about, and customers are are expecting us to know this. We've looked after their phone system previously, and we may or may not. They would expect us to have that information about their legacy PBX, which we just don't have, and we have to extract that data in some way. And it is a very manual process, and can put delays and time restraints on the installations and deployments that we do.
Yeah, I suppose with that resource, and obviously having trying to figure out or know everything about the customer's PBX. I mean, like you say, you mentioned Babel's growing by acquisition. I can imagine there's a whole host of PBXs that you currently look after, ranging from Mitels to Toshibas to LGs, anything. I mean, I suppose that has a knock-on effect with the amount of knowledge and resource that you currently have in the team, because I mean, realistically, how many people will know, say, a Toshiba PBX?
I think within my remit, there's one, and I think within the entirety of the operational and support function of Babel, there's probably 3 that know that specific system. Now, we've got, and you're quite right. It ranges from Avaya to Mitel to Samsung to Toshiba to PBX to old Panasonics. They're all out there, and if the customer specifically doesn't have the resource, Joe was talking about a large 200-seat, 400-seat customer, that we do have some insight on what they have, and they do have a team of people that do understand their phone system, and we still utilize the MIT software because it made more sense. If you think about some of the other customers that we're dealing with, 50, 60, 70 seats, they have no idea what they have in terms of what their call routine looks like, how many handsets they use, how much, who does what. And as it is expected that the engineers or the project managers within Babel help and assist to get that data, and that can and has lengthened the time to deployment by months to try and get that information.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to touch on what we've discussed prior to the webinar today around that 60 or 50 to 60 seat opportunity that we spoke about has been in the whip at Babel for a while now, but it's because it's difficult trying to extract that data from their legacy PBX, right? And you came to me and said, Adam, this MIT, we need to get MIT on this particular project, because the upside of this opportunity is upwards of 500 seats.
Yeah, so it's a 70-seater to start with. It's been sitting there since September last year, and the delay has 100% been on the fact that the expectation on the customers, we knew what they had. We obviously didn't. It was an inherited customer. We couldn't get the data, and as a manual exercise, it was taking months because we kept going back and forward and back and forward. Utilizing MIT and actually turning this around and making this work, and with the engineering resource that we have on it, we will go live within the next 2 weeks, because now we've turned it around. And you're quite right, off the back of that and the 70-seater to start with, it will turn into and could turn into somewhere upwards of 500 seats on phase 2. So again, it's things like that if we can eradicate the delay, these things will turn around a lot quicker.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose, I mean, since obviously we've partnered with MIT, as soon as you knew that, you brought that opportunity straight to me, and obviously it just shows the value of utilizing MIT, like say two weeks ready to go live in a couple of weeks time. Yeah, and it also, the fact that it's for a smaller business as well, and obviously speaking on Joe's opportunity earlier, it just shows the scalability of MIT and who it literally can work with absolutely anyone.
Yeah.
And obviously you mentioned a number of the benefits there as well. And I just wanted to bring in Joe on this particular point as well. You mentioned, Nikki, around the back and forth that was going on between the customer. Do you have this? Do you have that? And also, I suppose, Joe, from a sales perspective, that can be quite frustrating from your side, because sometimes when extracting data, say manually, something may be missed or something might be uncovered that wasn't necessarily thought of before. And that might mean you have to go back to the customer and say, oh, sorry, Mr. Customer, because you have this feature or because you have this, you need this. And it sort of makes it a little bit of an awkward conversation, I guess, right? In terms of, I mean, Nikki as well, you probably find that information out and then have to go to Joe. I mean, you can imagine it's quite frustrating for all involved.
Yeah, we do this quite often. We do obviously site surveys and then send engineers to site, and more often than not, the engineer in question will come back and say, this is fine, but this has been missed. And it hasn't been missed for any other reason than it just wasn't known about. But it's not until we get that presence on site or that actual visibility of the system in advance that we know this, and we know what they've got, whether it's missing of sort of call routing licenses, handsets are wrong. They might specifically use a feature on their old system we need to transfer over that we wouldn't have known about because it's all a very manual thing. And then from an ops perspective, we're then going back to sales, Joe, for example, and saying, you've missed this. That then means all the forms have got to be changed. And then I'm sure that Joe's opinion on it is exactly the same, because it's frustrating for him as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's to the point now as well, Nikki, where Babel are actually looking to implement MIT as part of the operational process as well, right?
Exactly that. It will be used as part of the process. It can be used as either within the original sale, or from an ops perspective, when it actually hits the PMs, we can implement it that way.
Perfect. And that'll be getting your guys doing a lot more deployments rather than site surveys, going out to site, manual data captures.
Exactly.
I remember you said to me, I think one of your engineers was he had to block out 3 weeks of his diary to go and try and extract. Was it because he was traveling so far? And
yeah, and it's traveling far and wide, and if surveys are needed, you are traveling to multi-site locations to extract data from each individual site, and it's purely down to the fact that the customer in question does not have the knowledge of what their system is doing.
Absolutely. No, that's brilliant. Gentlemen, thank you both very, very much. We'll keep you unmuted for any sort of questions on the end that might come your way, and really do appreciate you both jumping on and obviously highlighting the benefit of MIT in real life scenarios and how you guys are utilizing in the solution at Babel. So thank you very much. And for the benefit of everyone on the webinar as well, the MIT solution can also be utilized as part of a marketing campaign, which we are doing with Babel at the moment, where we're sort of focusing on the PBX customer base. And obviously MIT fits in really, really nicely with that campaign. And so it just shows again, MIT can be used in any which way. So yeah, I think the PBX migration campaign is looking really, really positive. We're looking to launch in the next couple of weeks. So Joe, Nikki, I'm sure I'll be talking to you more about MIT in the coming weeks and months. So yeah, gentlemen, thanks again. Really do appreciate your time. So we're moving on to the final Slido before we jump onto any sort of questions. So what do you think the biggest benefit will be to you and your customer by utilizing MIT, and do you see MIT being used within your organization? And then I think we've got about 4 minutes, Courtney, for any questions at the end. I appreciate not a lot of time.
No, we've got time, don't worry about it.
Perfect, no problem. Okay, we've got a few participants typing, fantastic. Speed up migration and visibility of process to customers. Yep, fantastic. Definitely deploying clients with huge number of seats, absolutely. Making life easier for everyone. Yep, definitely from both operational, commercial and customer. We've got one more participant, so we've got two more. Yep, keep them coming. Saving resource time, pre-deployment, reduce WIP timeframes. Absolutely. That 70-seat opportunity that we just mentioned, obviously showing that as well. A few more answers coming in. Will make onboarding a lot easier, definitely. I suppose referring back to the bulk upload as well, Elliot, you touched on earlier.
Yeah.
Everything is captured at phase 1, minimizes the return to the customer for change after change just to hit the previous spec. Providing quick and easy reporting and transfer. Yeah, absolutely right. All very good points. We'll let the last few come on in, and then we'll move on to any questions. And like I said, guys, any questions that you might have, Joe and Nikki and Elliot are all obviously on the webinar, all unmuted as well. So feel free to ask them any questions, whether it be what they've experienced already utilizing MIT, and obviously for Elliot, anything other about the business. Shows us as the expert, absolutely, rather than exposing lack of knowledge and the customer current system. Yeah, definitely sort of touching on the customer retention piece that we spoke about earlier. Fantastic. It looks like no more. Oh, one more. Yeah, keep them coming. Keep them coming.
I think just to emphasize as well, it can be used as a great tool set as a pre-sales tool set. As Babel mentioned, it's allowed them to sort of work on a project, a customer that they've been working on for a long time, and this software has allowed them to essentially win them over, build that trust with the customer, go in and tell the customer what their PBX looks like and what's actually being used. And then I guess it helps as a pre-sales tool to win business. You can tap into any PBX out there. So I guess it opens up sort of new revenue streams as well as a partner from a sales perspective.
100%. Did you type that last point by any chance, Elliot? I think that's hit the nail on the head there.
well answer. Yeah.
Timely answer. Great sales tool since differentiation won't allow the competition to compete with the detail of data. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I suppose if as well, Elliot, if our partners are able to extract that data themselves, it shows obviously the knowledge and the resources we have at our disposal. Or their disposal rather. Obviously the customers are probably more willing to lean towards our partners, which is really good. There's value for both pre-sales and post-sales. Absolutely right. All very good answers, guys. Thank you very much for that input there. So finally, guys, are there any questions that have come in? So Courtney, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, so one that hasn't been put into the chat, but I've got one here that someone sent over to me is what training or support is available to partners for using MIT's auditing tools?
Yeah, we can provide full training and support. So as a package, it comes with those two, training and support, to you as a partner, as well as to sort of how to use Ucentric. I guess it is a managed service that we're providing. So we'll be operating the audits on behalf of EvolveIP and the partner. So there won't be much sort of training of the software, but I can share a lot of collateral as to the sales benefits and anything you want to share with partners in house as well to have more knowledge and insight into Ucentric for sure.
And from our perspective as well, obviously Elliot, we're more than happy to obviously bring you guys in. I mean, speaking with the Babel team, we'll be heading into offices to provide any sort of oversight or training or sort of any sort of tips and tricks to help open up those conversations with a customer on a legacy piece of kit. And I know Elliot, you've mentioned it to me before, as Rob as well. You guys are more than happy to come along and sit down with our partners to be able to obviously run through that and answer any quick questions or any sort of queries around utilizing the solution itself as well. So yeah, if you guys on the webinar, our partners do want to explore something like this, then please feel free to reach out to either myself, Courtney, or obviously your partner account manager as well. We'll be more than happy to obviously help any way we can.
Next question is, can MIT's tools be branded or white labeled by EvolveIP partners?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's how we position it essentially. So the HLD that I took you through earlier and the LLD, probably more focused on the HLD, that can be completely rebranded with your branding on it. 100%.
Super.
We've had another one coming from the chat from Ross. Does the customer's existing configuration matter? Is it a replacement of the legacy PBX, not an ideal opportunity to look at what needs moving forward rather than what's currently in place?
So you just repeat the first bit of the question, sorry, Courtney.
Does the customer's existing configuration matter?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks for the question, Ross. Yeah, I think it definitely does. And I mean, the reports as well, Elliot, correct me if I'm wrong, they will obviously show that current setup as well.
That's it. Yeah, correct. It will. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Yeah, and a great thing as well is sort of retaining that customer as well. You can use this, I guess, to tell the customer what they have, and then maybe set up automatic audits on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. So when you go and have that account review with the customer, you can basically produce an audit, take the reports with you before the account review, and say, use that as part of the account review with the customer, and then take them through what's being used, how it looks today, and if, for example, they do want to move to a new system, then obviously that helps them migrate to a new platform as well.
Yeah, and I think a valuable point that Jamie's just put in the chat as well, Courtney. I didn't quite catch it.
Yeah, ideal opportunity to either replicate or refine, but the data supports the conversation, is what Jamie put in the chat.
Absolutely right. Thank you, Jamie. Any other questions, Courtney?
We've had one coming in asking about the licensing packages.
Okay, so again, I think all details in terms of licensing and pricing is in the price book. So in terms of licensing packages, I assume that refers to the cost.
I think so.
Yeah, all details are in the price book, I believe, and yeah, again, or any questions, feel free to ask your partner account manager as well. But Elliot, for memory pricing, $275 per user, I believe it is.
It is, yeah. That's our price to you, EvolveIP. Yeah, £2.75 per user. So quite simple pricing, really. Yeah, per user pricing.
Fantastic. So again, for the benefit of everyone, and obviously why Babel have utilised it so quite a lot, sort of off the back of Partner Day, is that cost can obviously equate to a lot less than sending out an engineer, and obviously it works out a hell of a lot better for Nicky and his team as well. So, any other questions that have come in last minute, Courtney?
Nope. I'll give it a couple more minutes, but yeah, no, I don't think there's any more questions coming in.
Any questions, guys? Whilst you got Nicky, Joe, and Elliot as well. Alternatively, feel free to drop us an email or a note after the webinar if anything springs to mind following the webinar today.
Great. Thank you all so very much for joining our amazing panelists today. I hope you really enjoyed the webinar. An email will be going out either today or tomorrow with the recording in case you missed anything or want to go over it. And we will be communicating very soon our next webinar. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Catch up again.